June 18th, 1936. The Maharshi was speaking of self-illumination and said, "The I concept is the ego. I illumination is the realization of the real self. It is ever shining forth as I in the intellectual sheath. It is pure knowledge, for relative knowledge is only a concept. And even the bliss of the blissful sheath is also but a concept. Unless there is the experience, however subtle, one cannot say, I slept happily. From his intellect, he speaks of his blissful sheath. The bliss of sleep is but a concept to the person. However, the concept of experience is exceedingly subtle in sleep. Experience is not possible without simultaneous knowledge of it, or relative knowledge. The inherent nature of the self is bliss. Some kind of knowledge has to be admitted, even in the realization of supreme bliss. It may be said to be subtler than the subtlest. The word vijnana, or clear knowledge, is used to both denote realization of the self and knowing the objects. The self is wisdom. It functions in two ways. When associated with the ego, the knowledge is objective. When divested of the ego and the universal self is realized, it is called vijnana, or clear knowledge. The word raises a mental concept, and therefore we say that the self-realized sage knows by his mind, but his mind is pure. Again, we say that the vibrating mind is impure, and the placid mind is pure. The pure mind is itself Brahman, the absolute consciousness, and therefore it follows that Brahman is not other than the mind of the sage. In one of the Upanishads it says, the knower of Brahman becomes the self of Brahman. Is this not ludicrous? To know him and become him? They are not mere words. The sage is Brahman, and that is all. Mental functioning is necessary to communicate his experience. He is said to be contemplating the unbroken expanse. Such contemplation is again a mere word. How is it that to be contemplative unless it is divided into the contemplator and the contemplated? When undivided, how is contemplation possible? What function can infinity have? Do we say that a river, after its discharge into the ocean, has become an ocean-like river? Why should we then speak of contemplation which has become unbroken as being that of unbroken infinity? The statement must be understood in the spirit in which it is made, and it really signifies the merging into the infinite. Self-illumination or self-realization is similar to it. The self is ever shining. What does this I illumination mean then? The expression is an implied admission of mind function. The gods and the sages experience the infinite continuously and eternally, without their vision being obscured at any moment. Their minds are surmised by the spectators to function, but in fact they do not. Such surmising is due to the sense of individuality in those who draw inferences. There is no mental function in the absence of individuality. Individuality and mind functions are coexistent. The one cannot remain without the other. The light of the self can be experienced only in the intellectual sheath. Therefore, vijnana, or clear knowledge of whatever kind, of object or of the self, depends on the self being pure knowledge. Mr. Cohen has been cogitating on the nature of the spiritual heart and whether the spiritual heart beats, and if so, how? And if it does not beat, then how is it to be felt? And the Maharshi said, this heart is different from the physical heart. Beating is the function of the physical heart, but the spiritual heart is the seat of spiritual experience. That is all that can be said of it. Just as a dynamo supplies motive power to whole systems of lights, such as fans, so the original primal force supplies energy to the beating of the heart and respiration and such things. But how is the I consciousness felt? It is an unbroken awareness of I. It is simply consciousness. But can we know it when it dawns? Yes, as consciousness. You are that even now. There will be no mistaking it when it is pure. Why do we have such a place as the spiritual heart for meditation? Because you seek consciousness. Where can you find it? Can you reach it externally? You have to find it internally. Therefore, you are directed inward. Again, the spirit heart is only the seed of consciousness, which is really consciousness itself. But on what should we meditate? Who is the meditator? Ask that question first. Remain as the meditator, and there is no need to meditate. Mr. B.C. Das, a lecturer in physics at the Allahabad University, asked, does not intellect rise and fall with man? Whose is the intellect? It is man's. Intellect is only an instrument. Yes, does it survive man's death? Why think of death? See what happens in your sleep. What is your experience there? But sleep is transient, whereas death is not. Sleep is intermediate between two waking states. So also death is between two successive births. Both are transient. I mean, when the spirit is disembodied, does it carry the intellect with it? Spirit is not disembodied. The bodies differ. It may not be a gross body. It will then be a subtle body, as in sleep or dream. Intellect does not alter. The bodies may differ according to circumstances. But the spirit body is the astral body then? The intellect is the astral body now. But how can it be? Why not? You seem to think that the intellect cannot be limited like a body. It is only an aggregate of certain factors. What else is the astral body? But the intellect is a sheath. Yes, without intellect, no sheath is cognized. Who says that there are 5 sheaths? Is it not the intellect that declares thus? You see, deep sleep is only the state of non-duality. Can the difference between the individual and universal souls persist there? Sleep implies forgetfulness of all differences. This alone constitutes happiness. See how carefully people prepare their beds to gain that happiness? Soft cushions, pillows, and all the rest are meant to induce sound sleep. That is to say, put an end to wakefulness. And yet the soft bed and such things are of no use in the state of deep sleep itself. The implication is that all efforts are meant only to end ignorance. They have no use after realization. It is enough that one surrenders oneself. Surrender is to give oneself up to the original cause of one's being. Do not delude yourself by imagining such a source to be some God outside of you. One's source is within oneself. Give yourself up to it. And that means that you should seek the source and merge in it. Because you imagine yourself to be out of it, you raise the question, where is the source? Some contend that the sugar cannot taste its own sweetness, and that a taster must taste and enjoy it. In a similar way, an individual cannot be the supreme and enjoy the bliss of that state. Therefore, the individuality must be maintained on the one hand, and Godhead on the other, so that enjoyment may result? No. Is God insentient like sugar? How can one surrender oneself and yet retain one's individuality for supreme enjoyment? And furthermore, they say that the soul, reaching the divine region and remaining there, serves the Supreme Being. Can the sound of the word service deceive the Lord? Does he not know? Is the Lord waiting for these people's service? Would not he, as pure consciousness, ask in turn, who are you apart from me that presumes to serve me? They assume that the individual soul becomes pure by being divested of the ego and fit for being the body of the Lord. Thus, the Lord is the Spirit, and the purified souls constitute his body and limbs. Can there be a soul for the souls? How many souls are there? The answer must be, there are many individual souls and the one supreme soul. What is soul in that case? It cannot be the body or the mind. What remains after all these are eliminated must be said to be the soul. Thus, even after realizing the soul as that which cannot be discarded, the Supreme Soul must be known to exist. In that case, how was the soul realized to be the ultimate reality after discarding all that was alien to it. Should this be right? The soul, which was described as the inalienable reality, is not the true soul? You see, all such confusion is due to the word soul, which is synonymous with Atma, the self. The same word, Atma, is used to signify the body, senses, and mind, and the vital principle, as well as the individual soul and the Supreme Being. This wide application of the word has given rise to the idea that the individual soul goes to constitute the body of the Supreme. But as Krishna said in the Bhagavad Gita, I, O Arjuna, am the self, seated in the hearts of all beings. This stanza shows that the Lord is the Atma, the true self of all beings. Does it say the self of the selves? If, on the other hand, you merge in the self, there will be no individuality left. You will become the source itself. In that case, what is surrender? Who is to surrender what and to whom? This constitutes devotion, wisdom, and investigation, vichara.